Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Don't Forget to Tap. My story of jiu-jitsu and all the crazy happenings of me trying to figure this out. But luckily, I have really experienced people like my guest with me today. I'm super honored, super humbled. I'm repping all the way through as much as I humanly can. I'm very proud because it's somebody that I've gotten to train under. I'm very privileged and very happy to get to introduce a good friend of mine, a great mentor in jiu-jitsu and in life, Mikhail Dye. Welcome to the show.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to be here. I wouldn't give myself that many accolades that you did, but I really appreciate that.
So I got to start. We talked about this a little bit in the pre-show comments and everything, but I'm obviously repping the rash guard that you designed, you made for the school and everything. And I got to give you credit. It's one of my favorite rash guards, and it's super comfortable. We were talking, and I could wear this thing just for comfort and leisure. It's a really good rash guard.
Oh, no, I get that 100%. I wear rash guards under. If I got to wear regular clothes outside of just because I got done with training, they're always underneath my clothes. But I got to give a shout out to my boy Dylan. I believe his last name's Chastain. I've never actually said it. But he owns Assassins Apparel. It's also Leglock Assassins, this a sister company. But he made that high quality, and I just gave him the the words on the chest, and I just asked him for stars and stripes on the back. So him and his designer took away with it, and yeah, the comfort and quality was way better than I've ever had with any other rash guard I've had. So it's definitely
No,
great.
yeah, you picked an awesome person to partner with on that. They did a great job, and they just look cool. They're just a
No,
fun rash guard.
yeah, wrapping the American flag, you can't go wrong with that.
So you obviously are in the middle of like a big chapter of your life right now, and something that I know that maybe not everyone else does, or hopefully they work their way to finding out with you, is you opened up your school, Freedom Jiu-Jitsu.
Hmm.
And I've had the privilege to train at Freedom Jiu-Jitsu. I had an awesome time, awesome instruction. You were so good at being able to connect to your students, and I can say that from firsthand experience. But I wanted to kind of walk it back a little bit to the findings of Freedom Jiu-Jitsu. How did you know, you've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. How did you know you were ready to take off and start your own gym?
Oh man, I think it was like around. I mean, when I started, I never had a dream to be a coach or own a gym. I mean, I guess I started the same reason everyone else started. Me and a bunch of friends saw a UFC fight. We wanted to join a gym. Thought we were going to be UFC fighters, and I started at an MMA. No, I actually didn't start at an MMA school, but I started teaching at an MMA school. And just sparring with those guys a few times, you realize, I'm not trying to do that at all. You know what I mean? I like to just cuddle and choke people. I don't want to get struck in the face because I'm also like too dumb and try to be too tough about it. So I let people hit you, and then you go walking home at night, and you're like, "Why do I got a headache?" You're like, "Oh yeah, you let someone use you as a punching bag." I'm sure you felt that in jiu-jitsu when someone just beats the crap out of you, and you're just yeah. It's not. I don't think it's smart to do on a regular basis with when strikes are involved. So. Um,
That's all.
Fuck, I forgot what was, the start
No,
of, go
yeah,
ahead,
just
sorry.
what kind of how did you know you were ready to take
Oh,
that
yeah.
moment
That
starting
started,
a school?
started right around when I became a purple belt. I started like thinking I wanted to join. I wanted to always I never really thought I was going to open up my own gym. I thought I would just be a coach. And I actually started coaching when I was a blue belt, assisted, helping out in classes. Became a purple belt doing private lessons and running some classes at my gym. And then when I became a brown belt, the team that I was at was going through transition periods with our coach, and I also wanted to dive real deep into I was just doing traditional jiu-jitsu, gi and no gi, but only doing like no gi twice a week on the class schedule. But I had a key to the gym. I used to always clean the gym, so I always had access to the gym early on, and I always had a group of guys that was willing to train. But we used to always just do no gi, and then I finally ventured off. Like by the time I was a purple belt, I was like, I don't need to wear the gi anymore. You once you understand grip breaks, it was just I like no gi. And then once I got further on with my brown belt career, I kind of left my home gym to. I moved 2 hours away from that. I went from Naples, Florida to Sarasota, and then I was cross training at like 4 to 5 different gyms a week, learning as much as I could from different people. traditional people, new people, leg lockers, you know what I mean? Big guys, small guys. I believe in learning it all. But around the time I was a purple belt, I just decided I was either going to coach or try to start my own school. But the reason I moved up here in Pensacola is because of my girlfriend. Uh, Unfortunately, her sister had a stroke 5 years ago, so she has family up here. It's easier for her to be a caretaker up here, and when she needs assistance, to call upon family members. Um, so it's like I didn't even know where Pensacola was on a map 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I've had no idea I thought it was like near Jacksonville, and it's definitely not. So the location didn't matter. I just knew jiu-jitsu was going to be a part of it. And, we moved here. I moved here in January of this year. We opened up in February. So, like, we haven't even started or completed a year. And the location you were at was Freedom Jiu-Jitsu 1.0. We're now at Freedom Jiu-Jitsu 2.0. So it's a way bigger upgrade. So I'm definitely happy about that. Next time you visit, I promise you'll be pleasantly surprised with the upgrades.
Oh, that's so cool. And I definitely want to showcase some of that a little bit later. I think we found a cool way to do that actually. But, I'll kind of lead up to it when I went there how I first found you, I was through one of your social media pages, White Belt Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved the content you were posting and everything. And then I saw you breaking out and doing the connection with Freedom Jiu-Jitsu. And I thought that was really cool. So I started following that. And, when you were opening the school and everything and you were kind of taking off, what were some of the biggest challenges you found that led from being just a member of a gym to here I am, like I'm establishing my own gym? I know you've had many challenges, but
I didn't do any of it right. So that's where we start, is like the challenges are either myself or just not doing things correctly. I was not new to coaching, but owning a business and running a business are two different things. Like working for a business was very easy, but when it comes down to getting insurance, making sure everything's legit, I didn't do that well at all. Like getting our first place, in a better contract that wasn't as loose as it was. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of the challenges were just doing everything wrong, to be honest. Everything I thought was gonna work out never actually worked out. And, it's kind of like jiu-jitsu teaches you that, like, oh shit, this didn't work out, so we just keep going. Like you can't stop. You just got to keep moving with whatever direction we move to. But the biggest challenge is when we moved into that spot that you were at. We shared it with two other people, a martial arts school that taught Wing Chun and Aikido, which I don't think is real, but that's neither here or there. But and then there was an acting school in there. So it was very hard to connect with three different businesses trying to run their business. And I was the newest one, so I was the unlucky one out of that transaction. Every time it became someone's turn to be unlucky, it was always my turn. So I can only take as much as that as we possibly could. And when you were there, we only had 6 classes Monday through Friday. And it was either a 6 a.m. class or a 7 p.m. class, except one of the night classes was at 8 p.m. And I don't even like training that late. So it's like very seldom people are going to be willing to wake up that early or stay that late to train. So it's like I only got a few crazy people that started with us in the beginning. But once we moved to our new spot, I got regular class schedules, Monday through Friday, 6:30 at night classes. That's a normal time for people. And I'm leaving by the time I would have started the other class. And I should have, I guess the biggest challenge, to put it bluntly, is I didn't start with enough money. I thought I had enough, and it went quick. It went quick. So yeah, that was the biggest thing. But I also wanted to move here to be with my girlfriend, and I started working right away. And it was like, hey, I didn't come here to just work. I'm currently still working 2 jobs on top of running that gym. So I'm hoping because, the new gym, Lord's been good to us at this new place. I'm hoping by the start of the new year, I can at least quit one of the other jobs. I'm working at, I don't think I said it since we've started. My two other jobs, I work at a food prep company, and I could be doing anything from being a cashier, working in the back, food prepping, or actually being a cook. Just, they throw me wherever they need me, which is a mess. And then the other place, I work at a gym, and I just, wipe down the machines, all those dusty spots that, no one ever touches. And I do that overnight over the weekend, and I only have to work a few hours a week, and I get a free membership. So I kind of like that. I kind of want to get rid of the food prepping job, because that one takes 30 to 35 hours a week just with that job itself. So um, I guess, the best way to start this to not have as many challenges as I did is because I've got a lot of friends. I'm a black belt now, and I've been training for a while, and I train with a lot of friends that own their own gyms. They all talk about, hey, however much money you think you need, add a zero to that. And I was like, that's an impossible number. Like, if I had 5,000, there's no way I'm gonna have 50,000. Like, be realistic. And they're like, no, you're gonna need another zero. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it didn't go. I should say this: when we moved to this new spot that we're at, obviously, because we went from that spot we were at has like 800 square foot, because we were only in that half section that we had. Um, I'm at an 1,800 square foot facility now. You know what I mean?
Holy
Now we're just waiting to fill it so we can buy more mats, and obviously the rent there is a little more expensive. So we went into a borrowing mode, but uh, I'm blessed to be able to do that. Like, now, since we moved there, I've been adding at least one student every week since we moved there, and again, we're a small team, and I'm doing it by myself. So I I'm good with slow and, steady growth. I also have to learn patience. I pray a lot for patience, and it's definitely been testing my patience a lot, just with every little thing. Just like, even when we moved in, just working with a landlord that doesn't live in the state. Like, the landlord of my new place lives in Virginia, so
oh wow.
and then we work through a third party, and it's just like, man, I just like to just talk directly, to the man, but there's always someone in between us, and it takes forever. And the place didn't have an AC, not a working bathroom. Me and my lady, we spent 4 or 5 days painting and renovating the whole place, and changing the ugly color. And I'm glad I have her, because, like, if you've seen the pictures of the gym and all the nice signs and the way everything looks, that's all her. I'm the knucklehead caveman that was like, I just need a spot. I'm not, and I kept telling, like, even the realtor, he's like, yeah, we'll get AC. I was like, I don't need an AC. I'm not running a beauty parlor. Like, I just need a spot that I can put mats down. And that's all I was looking for. But Ashley, my lady, she's smart enough and bright enough that she's like, you're about to introduce the kids class in the women's program. You can't look like a freaking dungeon. It's got to be a little more welcoming. So she took over in that area. So she made her the interior designer, and thank God, because so many people come in and they're like, wow, this place looks amazing. I'm like, I was ready. It had yellow walls and red floors. So um,
So
very.
like a McDonald's, kind of like a McDonald's theme going
Yeah,
on.
it was. I mean, it used to be an old church, but I don't. I'd hate to say it was probably an ugly church if that was the church, but maybe it transit. There was a time after the church that I was there, so maybe another business was there. But I don't understand that color concept. But again, I was ready to rock it until my lady was like, just look at it. Do you want to walk into this? Like, it's not a basement with you and your boys. You want to have kids here, and you want to have women to be able to train. I was like, that's so smart. Like, obviously, how dumb am I for overlooking that? And she made we got gray floors and white walls now, and everything looks amazing. So
Yeah, it
I
looks
can't
really
complain.
good. We'll definitely show some of it. I'm excited to kind of show it off a little bit and everything. But yeah, it looks incredible. I think what you're doing is, I talk about this a lot, a testament of the human spirit. And I think what you're doing is incredible. I think so many people, I think fear holds people back in general. Fear definitely holds people back in jiu-jitsu, but for you, you're taking a whole new leap of faith, literally, with moving out a passion of yours and putting it out into the world and saying, hey, let me share this with you. So I think that's absolutely incredible. My hat's off to you. Ultimate respect in every
Appreciate that.
possible way.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Walk it back. One of my favorite things to talk about with people. Obviously, you're a black belt now. You can kill people in your sleep. That's how that works.
Only if they're sleeping too. You know what I mean? I'm an old man. I
But
don't
you
remember how
get
old you
them
are,
there.
Chris. I'm in my 30s now. And when you do jiu-jitsu, when you started as an adult, like having over, I mean, I say I started 13 years ago, but there's, I went through my blue belt phase, which most people do, and I took a 3.5 year gap. But I'm in my 30s now. I can't do the can't just kill everybody at short notice. You know what I mean? I'm trying to just focus on running away at this point.
That's fair. Ironically, I hear a lot of black belts have that similar philosophy, and that's a whole conversation that I'm like trying to wrap my head around still that I'm not ready for. But
I think it's mainly just because I'm pretty pro gun, and I think everyone's too lazy to fight. I've heard many people that I hang out with. They tell me straight to my face. I'm sure you've probably heard. They're like, "I'm not gonna fight you. I'll just shoot you." And I was like,
oh
That's cool. So there's no middle ground. It goes from 0 to 100. That's why I like to be able to like we can have a controlled fight. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I don't know if it's the Texas. I think someone told me you can do it in Florida. I never looked it up, but that the thing where you can have like a mutual combat with someone just being overseen by. I don't know if that's a fairy tale that I just live in my head, but
I'm gonna look that up here in a minute because that sounds like a Texas thing. Like
if
I
it's
don't
anywhere,
doubt
it
that.
should be Texas. If it's not Texas, I could see it in the. I mean, I live in Florida, so Wild Florida would be it also. So
If that's not one of the if that's not a Texas thing, then
then it doesn't
it can't
exist.
be
Yeah,
real.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Then it
yeah,
doesn't
it can't be
exist.
real.
But
But kind of walking it back, one of my favorite things to talk about with people, because everyone has their reasons, but what made you start jiu-jitsu? I know you've been at it for a while, but what was the kind of the catalyst that got you into jiu-jitsu?
well, I was just I think just the first year out of high school. I think I was 19 at that time. I think I just completed 1 year, and I was like, wow, I did a whole year outside of high school. I didn't do anything. I mean, I was working, but um, when you're a young kid in high school, you're like, I'm going to be this by the time I'm 30 days outside of high school, and you just realize, oh, you're just like you're just going to work. And then unless you actively do something, no one's in your face to, hey, you got to go to school. Hey, you got to do this. Like, so you got to actively pursue something, which was very, very different. Like I understood going to work to make money, but I had to find something to do, and I was young enough and dumb enough working with guys I don't even talk to anymore, but just young guys that we worked at a BMX park. But we also liked UFC, and honestly, I used the UFC, like big UFC events, like the pay-per-view ones, as sales tactics, because after every big UFC, there's a big influence of people. It's like a mini New Year's at like a regular recreational gym. Everyone wants to now train and fight. That's when I get my most messages, but. I thought I was going to be an MMA fighter. Wanted to go into the UFC, try to make a big name for myself. I liked the idea of fighting. I started at a just strict jiu-jitsu gym, but the gym where I mainly coached at, where I became a no-gi coach at, was an MMA gym called Evolution MMA. And you do a few rounds of sparring with those guys that dedicate their life to Muay Thai, and then just transition to MMA, and they're just ready to just stand and bang no matter what. And you're dumb like me, and I just stand like a tree and just let people hit me just because I'm like, it doesn't hurt. But then 4 hours later, like you got the worst headaches in the world, and you realize you're like, I think that's the CTE that everyone's gonna start talking about if you keep letting this up. So, I thought it was the best to no longer do that, pursue the fighting, but I really liked part of the grappling aspect, and then I just switched just directly into jiu-jitsu. So I guess it was like a compromise, not being an MMA fighter, but wanting to dedicate myself to grappling, because I still work with a lot of guys that fight. Like I'll be willing to put MMA gloves and train with any of my buddies that are getting ready for an MMA fight. But if you're a Muay Thai guy or a boxer, I mean, no, I'm not doing that unless you let me grapple you. I'm not dumb enough to play that game. So it's too restrictive. But my whole grappling growing up, being at the MMA gym, we've always always had a emphasis of make sure while you're grappling to not be in a spot where people can punch you in the face. So that's a little different of a grappling aspect that most people grow up with. And we had geese, we still had gi and everything like that, but when you mix with those guys that like to fight, they let you know, hey, there's no, if you do a leg lock lazily or if you're just very lazy with your closed guard, you're gonna get popped in the face. So, and then I use that as a way to transition and just how to control people with just grappling. So obviously I'm not going to outstrike any of my guys, but when they knock me down and they're in my closed guard, you start learning, oh, I can overhook this guy, and now he's, I got one arm attached to me, the other arm can, barely hit me, and it's just like, now you're in my game. I'm going to just swivel my hips and triangle you. Like I play, I mean, I don't really remember the roles that we did, but I try to emphasize triangles usually when I roll with people, and it's just what I always go for. And when you train with me, you're one of my students or someone that grew up training with me. If I isolate one arm, I'm always just going to get a triangle. It's just what I work for. So I guess my jiu-jitsu had a different. Everyone's jiu-jitsu is different. Like I run a no-gi school. There's some schools that are gi only or just the traditional. They only do no-gi a couple times a week. But everyone always asks me, they're like, why gi over no gi? And it's like, man, I know how to grip break. I can break your grip if you grab me. I mean, I can do cross chokes if I need to. I don't really care about any of these lapel movements or lasso guards or worm guards, to be honest. But I know enough gi jiu-jitsu to also make me. I actually, a lot of times, if you annoy me enough, or if you're a good enough friend, and you're like, can I work on the gi? I even tell my students, I'm like, if you guys, when you compete, want to get into another division, it's very easy to just throw a gi on. I have a giant red gi that I give out to people if they're willing to wear it. But I feel like a lot of times it's much easier to do the gi, especially like I'm 6'3", I got these long ass legs. So with these leg lockers, it's just you can't avoid them. You have to learn how to get out of the leg locks. But if you put a gi on, you're just like, no, you're going to get disqualified for half the movements that you're trying to do. So if I don't have to worry about legs with the gi on, it's a much easier roll. So,
Yeah, and that's a really big, I'm so glad you covered that because I was actually going to ask you that is like how you knew that you wanted to pursue like the no-gi world and everything. And I know that's your focus, that's your specialty, and I love that. I love getting to train under you. You're brilliant when it comes to teaching people the no-gi environment. And a number of things that you said resonate so highly with me. I love it. I love training both. An analogy that I heard one time was the gi are sticky, but when you're not in a gi, you have to be more technical. And I don't know if that resonates with you at all because, and I tried to put that into logic one time. I was like, well, what does that mean? And I think what they were trying to say is like the gi, there's all these things to grab onto, but like you said, you can grip break. And once you kind of establish that, then the point of the gi is kind of gone.
um, the one thing actually, I mean, I that's the number one argument you hear from the wizards, the pajama wearers. Every time they're in a gi, they're like, it's more technical. I was like, if you just mean it's slower, just say that. But is it more technical? Like, I don't understand how it's more technical. Like, especially with the point I just brought up. If you can avoid half the movements by just wearing gi pants, reaps are not allowed, heel hooks are not allowed.
Yeah.
Then you're admitting that you don't need to learn those techniques. So it's
And it's
oh
funny because I've actually heard, you hear there's like a million social media posts on it, but I heard that what I've seen a lot and kind of seems to be a constant consensus is actually no-gi tends to be more technical. I think there's a little bit more that you have to consider. And I think that like like you said, once you want to break grips and everything, no-gi is like a whole different game because there's a lot more things to consider.
and my biggest argument with the people that say like you're technical, I'm like, I think you really just mean you're slower because you do have to worry about grip breaking because they never like I use my white belt Wednesday that you brought up. I've been slacking on that because I thought I was going to be able to run both like a social media page for white belts, and then also run my gym, and I love that page, but I love this gym way more, and I only got enough energy for one right now. But sooner or later, if I can hire someone to take over the social media, I can get back on the White Belt Wednesday. But the no gi and the gi argument, they always talk about like you need to be able to grab someone. I'm like, do you have this same conversation when you're talking to Jordan Burroughs, a man that's never put a gi on in his life, but will out grapple and take down anybody who's standing in front of him? He's not worried about, oh, is he wearing a shirt? Is he got the sweater on? Like, oh shoot, like, or if he's wearing a shirt. So it always doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, what do you say to wrestlers? And I've never heard a good argument to that. I'm like, wrestlers know how to grip. And that's the thing with jiu-jitsu guys. When we watch like wrestling, and I mean, college level Olympic stuff. I'm not talking about WWE. Like, when you watch these wrestling matches, before I learned, I didn't get my wrestling coach till I was a purple belt. So my hat's off to we call him D1. His name's Brandon. Don't remember his last name, but he used to wrestle for Nebraska. Actually, if you've seen the match Bo Nickel versus Gordon Ryan, I don't know if you remember that match. It happened. It happened a few years before you even started training, to be honest. But you know who Bo Nickel is now, probably, and Gordon
Yes.
Ryan. They had a little hybrid match where they agreed to no leg locks, and Bo Nickel hit him with a huge suplex, but Gordon Ryan backed up into him, and it was a whole. He did it on purpose to get it to the ground. But in that corner of Bo Nickel, one of the coaches is my old wrestling coach, so I had a guy that knew what he was talking about, and like I just got done. Today I only had one guy show up. It's holiday week, to the day before or 2 days before Thanksgiving. And him and we just decided to roll. And he was a young wrestler kid. I got a bum knee, so I just stick to, simple principles that he taught me. And it's like, yeah, I'm not worried about grips at all. And I would never go up to my coach, D1, and be like, hey, this guy's wearing a jacket, or if you're fully clothed, you need to watch out. Like, I think that would be a crazy statement to ever make to that type of grappler. And I'm sure you've come across wrestlers. They're a different mindset in general. Like, I actually there's a wrestling page I follow. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I think it's like Arson Wrestling. But he made a funny post about jiu-jitsu, and he's like, why are wrestlers better than jiu-jitsu? And he's just right. He just put jiu-jitsu, wrestlers are not prima donnas. And I was like, that's funny, but that's true. I almost like reposted it, but I decided not to. Like with the Freedom Jiu Jitsu page, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. With the White Belt Wednesday page, I'll go back to no problem hurting feelings over there. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, I last night I was at training and kind of jumping into the world of like cross training a little bit. And we definitely have some people with wrestling backgrounds, especially some of the high school kids. They're just gnarly. Like I'm not experienced in jiu-jitsu. I'm horrible on my best day. I mean, really, I'm not good. But like you can tell the difference. Like the thrashing you take is just different with a wrestler. And good God. But we have like a couple, I want to say they're like 16, 17-year-olds, and their energy is just different. And so we were doing some sparring last night. And one of them, shout out to Devin, because he knows what he did. Devin is cross-training in judo right now, and he's super active. He just competed in his first judo tournament on Saturday.
Heck yeah.
And just, I knew immediately he had all this wiry energy and he wanted to try all these things. And usually we have a crash mat for it, but we didn't have a crash mat. And so he starts throwing all these words that I've never heard before. Next thing I know, he's like throwing me all over the place. And I was like, man, but it was awesome. But Devin's like dappled in wrestling and everything. And so what are your kind of digging into that a little bit? And you talked about Muay Thai and you've dabbled, and Wing Chun, which maybe that's, I don't know where that falls in, but, what are your philosophies on cross training in jiu-jitsu?
Oh man, I live and die by it. I tell all my students all the time, I'm like, I think I'm a good coach, but you also got to experience other coaches. Not mainly, but for a big reason, to compare how good I am at coaching and putting out information. But you also have to see different training rooms. It's kind of like working out. There's a million different ways to get big or get lean. There's 30 different styles to do each one, like bulking. Everyone bulks differently. Everyone cuts differently. It's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. It's just everyone I always break it down like there's a lot of fundamentals that stay through jiu-jitsu throughout the years. Like everyone learns this basic type arm bar. Like everyone's still got the same type of day one stuff. I guess it's kind of a little bit different in no-gi, but a lot of gyms still stick with, you know, the traditional. You got to learn your arm bar. You got to learn how to shrimp, all that stuff. Um, I totally forgot. What was your question?
No, like just kind of like other disciplines, like cross training.
Oh shit, cross training. That's what I was talking about. I mean, I lose my train of thought. If I can't write it down, I'll forget it. So no, cross
No,
training.
no,
Like
no, you're good.
I'm one of the gyms that has an open mat that's free to everybody, and I'm in the area that we're at. I mean, there's a lot of schools. There's 10 schools, I believe. All got great coaches, great programs. Like again, like I'm a no-gi only school, and even though I got a guy that might be convincing me to run like a gi optional class one day, but I tell people all the time, I was like, if you like the gi and you want to stick to the gi, but I mean, there's many great teams in this area, and it's also, you know, people try to hit me up for MMA. I'm like, I'm not an MMA gym. I am a no-gi gym. I can make you a better grappler, absolutely, but we don't have an MMA program. But the cross training, most of our gyms in our area have their open mats on Saturdays. I think I'm the one and only gym. I think there might be another, but I'm one of two gyms in the area that runs the open mat on Sunday. And I tell people all the time, this is the one time it's free for everybody, because you got to use those days as like mini competitions, like competitions without the pressure of a competition. You know what I mean? Like you've done what, a few now, right?
So I've actually only competed once. I go to a ton of them. I got hired as a
Oh, that's
videographer
right.
for a
That's
couple.
right. You're taking pictures and stuff.
Yeah, but if everything works out and I don't end up moving until a little bit later than I thought, then I'm going to compete in Austin for an IBJJF tournament. So we'll
Heck
see
yeah.
how that goes.
Heck yeah. No, that's awesome. The only thing I do love about IBJJF, even though they're like, you know, they're the older generation of jiu-jitsu, their tournaments are run professionally compared to any other tournament. If they say, hey, you're starting at 117, you're starting at 117. If you're not starting at 117, you already knew an hour ago that they moved you back. But
Yeah.
um, what was your first competition? Which, if you don't, was it a
Uh,
local? You don't need to name them, but they get a little
no,
sloppy and disorganized.
it was like I'll call it a local tournament, and it was good. It was, luckily my bracket stayed on time, but there was a ton of fluctuations and variables and stuff like that, and it all worked out and everything. But it was definitely, and for me the whole thing was a whirlwind because I'd never competed, so I went into it. I did the dumbest thing. Like, I did a whole episode on it. I did the dumbest thing you can compete. I didn't prepare. I didn't stretch. I didn't warm up. I didn't hydrate. I didn't eat. I just went in cold. Like, I literally walked in like just walked off the street.
I I had one of my students for his first. He was an old former wrestler. He's like in his 20s now, but his first jiu-jitsu competition, he had Waffle House. Like 2 hours. I was like, are you trying to make me mad? Like, and then one of my blue belts, he told me, he's like, yeah, and I had McDonald's. I was like, what are you? I didn't know I had to tell you guys these things, but you learn quickly what to do and what not to do in tournaments. But back to cross training, it's one of the few times where you're gonna see someone else from your own gym. Like the gym you train at, regardless how good you're getting and your partners are getting, you guys are learning from the same guy. You guys are taking the same classes. You remember how, especially if it's one of your training partners, you remember how he messed this move up. You remember what the follow up is. You understand the little trap or dilemma system they're probably trying to work on. So it's always good to go against other people that maybe they've learned that, but they're also not focusing on that right now. So you can hit people with, I always emphasize, not only do you need a cross train, like when we have people that drop in at our gym every Sunday, I tell my new guys, make sure you train with them and make sure you try to stick with something we just hit, like the move of the day. I don't really got like a move of the day, like, because I break up my trainings in like almost like modules or blocks. Sometimes it takes like 3 weeks. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks. Sometimes it might take like 6 weeks to get up. Like, we did half guard, and half guard's just a whirlwind of what ifs. So the top, the bottom, with the knee shield, without the knee shield, all that dumb stuff. So that one took forever, but I heavily emphasize we're not moving on until most of our students have it. There's always going to be some stragglers, but I can't leave everybody behind. But we get 90% of our students together and focus on the same thing, and we move on. But I ramble. But with the cross training it's a mini competition without a competition. You know, I always tell our guys, I'm like, hey, I want you to go. You can do whatever. There's only one move I ban in my gym, and that's a flying scissor. You know, the Kani Basami. Like, I don't need you guys to try to do that here. Even if you're good at it, no reason to do that. But you can do as many heel hooks and toe holds and ankle locks and slicers, whatever you want to do. But please don't try to fall. Like, maybe you misjudge or maybe they misjudge. I've seen that happen twice in my life, like with my own eyes. Not even the videos you see on social media. Like, and those screams that you hear, just they stick with you. You don't want to deal with that. And I always just give everyone like, hey, it's not the ADCC. Your wife, your husband's not going to care if you tap anyone out here. You know, no one's going to care if you beat me. Like it's just another day. Like, we're just here to try to get a good training in and make sure we can come back to it tomorrow. That's very important. Is being able to train again tomorrow. So like when we train with other people, it's competitive because you're training with someone that you don't know. So there's a little, I don't know what it is, like a hunger. There's like a thrill behind it every time you shake hands with someone new. Because when you shake hands with your own partner, it's kind of like, I don't want to, it's like you've been there before, you know what I mean? It's like, this is a new time. Like, now you're excited, and it could be something great. It could be something really dumb, but you don't know that yet until you finally grapple. Like, it usually takes about like 5 to 10 seconds to figure out if you got control of the situation or not. But cross training, I live by that religiously, especially with my team. Like especially when they're telling me, hey, I'm gonna go, because Pensacola is a lot of short term, or people visit family in other areas. I'm like, if you're going to somewhere else, make sure you train somewhere else, because it's a good good way for you to see where you're at. And again, it's a test on me as well. Like, hey, do you like your coach's coaching style? Like, do you like what you're learning? Do you like the progress of how we're doing it? But without that cross training, you don't get to, you're in like a very closed network, and like you'll think you're good when you're not good. It's kind of like guys that do striking in their garage by themselves and never had a coach, never sparred like in a sparring room. You're like, dude, I get it. You're doing really good on the bag. You're working, and you can work your friends that have no training. But when you enter a real training room, it's totally different. So it's very important to get those looks, and it's very important to get those looks outside of your gym, because whether you want to admit it to yourself or not, like when you roll with your partner, whoever you want to put in your head, you and Devin, you're gonna go like, we've rolled 5 times, and 80% of the rolls ended up in this type of situation. That's not good or bad. That's your style versus his style. But when you get someone new, you're just like, oh, I really got to understand if I got, everything nice. Like, I don't know if he's going to try to take me down, or if I got to pass his guard, or if he's going to leg lock me, or if he's going to try to choke me. Is he someone that inverts? So without having those new people to freshen up your jiu-jitsu, to keep, that it kind of keeps that fire going too, to let you know, hey, even if you're the mat enforcer at your gym, it's not that hard to actually be the mat enforcer. So that's the unfortunate part that a lot of people don't want to hear. They're like, no, I bet it's like hard work to get there, because it sucks when you start training. Like the beginning of jiu-jitsu, the first few months, I tell people, like, first few years, you're still gonna get your ass beat. I mean, and I'm a black belt. You're either the hammer or the nail. I just tell people it just happens less. It doesn't just stop when you become black belt. You're like, I'm never gonna get smashed again. No, it just happens less. But in the beginning, it happens the most. And all my students think I'm lying to them. I mean, like, again, we started 13 years ago. We record everything now. We was never brave enough to pull out a phone. I don't even think I had a smartphone I was still a BlackBerry at that time. I don't know how that would do on video, but I was never brave enough to record myself at that time. So that's why, like, I always have my hats off to these guys that train when they're young. I'm like, you're doing this when you know you're not that good. Like, and especially when you post things on social media, you're just going to get someone that's just going to throw something just rude at you. And it's just like, dude, I'm just trying to share my love of the game. But you got to be perfect when you're on social media. But I tell people all the time, I wasn't brave enough to record myself when I was younger, but they think I'm like a magician now, because, most of my students are white belts. I mean, you go white belt versus black belt on a regular basis, you can kind of play around with your food at that point. You know what I mean? But I tell them all the time, there's so many guys that I look at, I'm like, dude, I was worse than you are right now. And they're like, no, there's no way. You are gifted. I was like, no, I'm using my gifts now. I'm understanding how to use the gifts, but it takes so many beatings to go through for that to happen.
Yeah, and coming from a white belt, I can relate to that wholeheartedly. I've been doing jiu-jitsu now for about 2.5 years, and I definitely had a chapter. I did some rib damage. I took about 6 months of that 2.5 years. I popped ribs, I think is the common term.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible, super early into my journey too. I was a spazzy white belt. It was 100% my fault. But you definitely see that where taking those beatings, there's so much wisdom to be gained from that, and it's hard to admit. Like even last night, I got destroyed by a purple belt last night. Great dude, love him to death. Super great at jiu-jitsu, at least through a white belt lens. But last night was one of those nights that was just frustrating, where you want to go and you want to be good, and I think that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, is the humbling that happens there, is because people, when they start things, they want to go into it and they want to be good at it immediately. Especially, like, I use the military as an example all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is really hard for people in the military to start jiu-jitsu later into their career, because at that point they have an ego, and I say that respectfully, but they've got rank, and sometimes they build a character or persona off that rank, and they can't drop that. So I try not to get into the military aspect of it too much, but I'm a master sergeant. I started jiu-jitsu as a master sergeant. It means I'm like supposed to be proficient and knowledgeable at everything I do, and I just jumped into a journey where I'm the most rookie of rookies, and I have 16-year-olds telling me how bad I am at something, and a lot younger at that. I think there was at some point like a 12-year-old tell me, like, you need to do this, and my natural like instinct at that time was, don't tell me what to do. Like, I got this. And then, but then I realized over time and over many taps and everything, I don't got this. I'm not. I'm completely out of control. In fact, I'm helpless, as a matter of fact, and I'm a child all over again. And I think my biggest respect to jiu-jitsu, my biggest thing that I love about it, of all the things, and I love so much, is how it has a way of connecting you with a part of yourself that I think we lose sight of, and it's that humbling that happens throughout. So everything you're saying, I think, is beautiful. I think that that's so relatable. I love your philosophies on cross training. I agree. I've been very fortunate as a white belt to get to travel the country and get to travel with great people like you, and just kind of get that different experience.
I mean,
What are
well,
some of your? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say real quick, just to be clear, cross training. There's no way to get around it, especially with the way people are and people wanting to highlight you when you come to their gym. Some cross training is dangerous, so you got to also make sure you're going to a gym that is nice to you and treats you well, not only while you're rolling but off the mat. So, like I tell my
Yeah.
guys all the time, I make sure you go at it. Like there's no need to. It's not ADCC. No one's going to get impressed if you had to blow out the gas tank just to get a tap on somebody. Um, so like, go at it. Give them a nice roll, but afterwards, be nice, thank them, ask them why they're here. Like, because you said you're married, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've got a long-term girlfriend. You've got a wife. How often do they let you train with them? Other than when you hug and you make it annoying to them, like they don't train with you. How often do your friends train with you? They don't. Your family's not training with you. So it's like you need to thank this person for being brave enough to walk through the door. But there are some gyms. I mean, you follow Craig Jones and his journey when he cross trains at gyms. Like he talks about, watch out for Polish people. But
I was just watching an interview on that. He said, what did he say? He said, if you're wearing a pit bull rash
yep,
guard or in Poland, he's like, look, man, he's like, there's no flow rolling.
yeah. And there's some people that don't know how to flow, and then some people got to learn. Like when I get new wrestlers, I'm like, hey, I understand wrestling is 100% every single time. You've got to hit that gas pedal and go. But jiu-jitsu is all about, ups and downs and, slowing it down. Just like if you're fighting, like Nate Diaz, one of my favorite fighters to watch, like when he throws every punch, not every punch is power. Some are slower, some faster. You got to change up the rhythm. But if you only got one speed, you're not going to be a great training partner. Not going to be a great training partner to new people that don't know how to wrestle. And if you're one of those one speed guys, you can't grapple with women. And I always tell that's a requirement of being a good grappler is being able to be in control. I tell people you need to like we get wrestlers. I try to take them down. I'm like, yeah, and you took 12 steps to do that. You ran into 17 people to do your takedown. Like, you got to also be aware of, hey, I took 12 steps to finish a takedown. How much mat space do you think we have? Like, um, you got to learn, and some people don't realize that. They just see a takedown and they're like, I got to get this. And it's like, you're running into people. And I'm sure you've seen videos that circulate every couple months. I think one just happened like a month ago. It's the number one way to injure people is people running into you, not you and your partner doing something too crazy. It's someone falling onto you. That's how actually my coach D1, he blew out his ACL because someone ran into him. So it's um, so those are like the number one things to watch out for. Like, yeah, I believe in cross training, but I also believe in doing your freaking homework first. You can't just enter any gym and think they're going to be nice to you. Like, assholes do jiu-jitsu too, unfortunately. So you got to watch out who you train with on a regular basis.
Yeah, most definitely. And I couldn't agree more with that. Unfortunately, I'll never name a gym. I'll never, ever throw somebody out there like that. But I have unfortunately been places where I think because the brand and the logos that I wear when I go, especially in a gi, I think somebody took that as like a invitation to make an example out of me. And it became very clear very quickly. And so I'll never throw them out there like that. I won't even say what state or what city or anything like that because it was nowhere near Texas. It was very, very opposite.
It was Texas.
It really wasn't. I promise. It really wasn't Texas. Much colder environment. But it became clear to me that was kind of my first real aha moment of not everyone in jiu-jitsu was as cool as I thought they were, and I was like, okay. But it's okay, because I would say that's the one-off for me, right? Everywhere else I've been, amazing people. I mean, jiu-jitsu people are weird people. I love that analogy. I heard that one time and I love it. We're weird people, but we're the best people. And I think that jiu-jitsu is that great equalizer where you can take a cop and a drug dealer and put them in one place and they'll be best friends for the next hour and then go back to business after that.
100%. 100%. I tell people that all the time. It's exactly how you put it. Like, it's the best people and the weird people. It's the best of the weird people. It's like, oh, you a raging pothead or you work all day, or you a cop, like whatever you are. But the good ones of that, those are the ones that usually do jiu-jitsu. But again, I mean, it goes with that warning. There's bad people in everything. But I tell people all the time, it's like not just like you said, it's like just the cop and the drug dealer, but it's just like the religious person, the Christian and the Muslim, you'll get the blue-haired person and, someone that works at a a Fortune 500 company and wears, suits and ties all day. It's like, you get it's the only place I've been to that gives me the biggest melting pot that I've ever seen. Outside of probably maybe like religion, but even this one probably a step ahead because there's religious and non-religious people here. There's just all types of people that have obviously are used to fighting and okay with it, and people that are just slowly just inching their toes into it, and you can tell, and you gotta like, oh man, like some people that come from a softer background, some people from harder backgrounds, like, and I guess it's probably true to all martial arts because in the Muay Thai gyms that we're at, it's the same mixing pot of people. I guess I just only stick to jiu-jitsu because it's what I know. I'm not claiming anything else, but and I guess it also comes like jiu-jitsu is one of the only sports is like, hey, I'm gonna touch you. There's gonna be contact. It's gonna be an aggressive type of hug, like especially like we talk like you're doing back positionings and trying to protect your like we're gonna get chin to chin. We're gonna get very close. I'm probably gonna get closer to you than you've ever been to your friend that you've been friends with for 10 years. You know what I mean? And there's just a weird connection you get with that person. Like you start trust like you understand their intentions when you felt them grappling you. You're like, oh, okay, like I get who you are as a person. Like there's nothing to worry about once you grapple people. It's a different experience. Like when you're doing striking, you're never really touching that person. You're just trying to knock that person out. It is a totally different experience when sparring versus what you would call like striking sparring, what you would call rolling. So, but yeah, exactly. Like jiu-jitsu is just this huge melting pot, and I mean, you can't. I don't know what the military, I guess. But
Yeah, I kind of compare it. I see so many similarities between jiu-jitsu and the military, but I think jiu-jitsu kind of brings me back because I think outside of the military, it's the only thing I've ever seen that has that kind of camaraderie and that kind of community. And I think even parts of the military don't quite get that like jiu-jitsu gets it, to be honest with you. I think a lot of it depends on what you do in the military, depends on how that bond develops.
that makes
Whereas like
sense.
everybody in jiu-jitsu seems to be, once it clicks, it's there. Like you're part of that tribe. Like those are your people now, and it's just there. Like I think that's really powerful.
And I mean, you're a man of the military, so I would never. I always tell people I would never claim this as like a true statement, but we're in jiu-jitsu, when you grapple your partners and you watch your partners grapple your friend, like your mix of your own your teammates that you train with on a regular. Not only when you go against them, when you see them go against other people, you build like you're pretending like you're going to war with each other. Obviously, no casualties are going to happen in jiu-jitsu. I hope not, but it's like when you do that, when you go through a beating with your friend, if that friend puts you through a beating and then the next day you put them through a beating, it's like you start respecting people a little bit more, and you also like you're not afraid of getting beat anymore because you're like, dude, I get beat all the time. What's
It's not even a big deal anymore.
yeah,
You're just
what's the next thing? Like the guy I was grappling with today. I mean, he's new to jiu-jitsu, so I like to introduce people to jiu-jitsu. Once they become a part of the team, I like to introduce them to knee on belly, and I like to do it a lot. So,
that's how my
and
ribs happen.
yeah, and then but I mainly and I tell people that I'm like, hey, it's not just knee on belly and just put it wherever. Like, there's different. Like, I can put it on your shoulder, put it on your solar flex, which is where I prefer. You can put it on the floating rib if you're trying to be mean and hurt someone. Pain is a way to get people to move. So sometimes you got to cause pain, and then also you can knee on neck people, which is great. But once I was doing that for him, on him for a while, and switching back and forth, like him not understanding what's happening when he pushes one off, and I switch to the other side. But at the end of the roll, I finally let him. He got in a position to knee on belly me, and he's like, "What? It's not the same effect." I was like, "Oh, dude, I've gone through years of being on the bottom of knee on belly. This is just another day. It's a walk in the park for me." But if you do that to a day one guy, you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna just put my knee in your solar flex as hard as I can, and we're gonna watch what happens." It changes people, and a lot of people hate it. Like a lot of people, are like, oh, I'm not gonna do that ever again. Like you're talking about the melting pot. Like the student that I have the most trouble with keeping is like people that are in like supervisors, managers, um, people that are used to being in charge and understanding what to do. It's like just like you said, like, hey, this is grappling. If you're not in this world, you are going to be a rookie, regardless of how strong, flexible, tall, fast you think you are, smart. You haven't been grappling, um, and you're going to get taught. If there's a 13-year-old that's been grappling for 5 years, guess what? They're going to. I have a 13-year-old girl that trains at my gym. She does in our adult classes. She's tapping out our new guys all the time. And and her dad's a cop, so a lot of times her dad lets the cops come in and cross train. She's instructing them on what to do, and you can see it on their face. Grown men, like, I'm like, well, if you don't listen to her, you're gonna get messed up. So what?
It's just gonna keep happening.
Yeah. What's your option? You want to let that ego go, or you want to listen and put your hand on the hip, frame on the hip, and maybe you'll get some
Yeah.
freedom. But it's such a humbling experience because even me, like, I'm a black belt now, and everyone is expecting me to know everything, and it's like, no, I can. I'm still a student of the game. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, I try to spend at least 5 to 10 hours a week studying film. Like just while we were waiting for me to update my phone for 36 hours, I was watching Levi Jones. Levi, is that his Owen Leary? Levi Jones Leary, the guy that made it to the end of the CGI with Cade Rotolo. Anyways, I was watching his K guard doing the K guard to his back takes, like mostly the crab ride stuff, and I just sat there for like 12 minutes just watching that, and I take notes on it. I don't remember why I started talking about taking notes on. So this is the thing
No,
about
no,
jiu-jitsu. I was telling my girl right before we started, I was like, he's gonna let me talk about everything you hate me talking about. So now I don't,
no.
and I don't know where we started. So
This
sorry.
is perfect. And that's the other thing with jiu-jitsu is it takes you down many paths. But to kind of bring it back, because you hit on a number of things that I would dig into, but I want to kind of really capture what you're doing right now, especially with jiu-jitsu, bringing it back to Freedom Jiu-Jitsu a little bit and what you're doing over there, because I really think it's awesome. I'm repping strong and everything, and I'm even going to throw the website up here so everyone can see it. So when the episode does premiere, everyone can easily find the website, pensacola.freedomjj.com, right?
Yes, sir.
And so go check it out. And I was on it before we did this interview. You'll see a little bit of his story, how he got to where he is, who he trained under, where the school is in itself, what it's about, all kinds of stuff. I love it. It's a very straightforward website. It's easy to navigate. It's easy to help you communicate with him and connect with the school. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So that's on here. People can reference that. But one thing I wanted to do, if I can take a second, so you've put all this work into this school, all this work into opening Freedom Jiu-Jitsu. I feel like I would miss an opportunity if I didn't share that with people that do watch the podcast. So I'm going to open up your Instagram and share that with everybody. And I'm just going to highlight a few things, and you just kind of tell me the story behind it, if that's cool.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to start with my absolute favorite, and we talked about this beforehand just to make sure that I'm on the right page and everything, but one of my favorite things I noticed instantly is this photo right here. I love this photo of all time. So tell me what's happening here in this photo.
That's the official Freedom Jiu-Jitsu mascot. That's Abby, little Abby girl. And I don't know if you can click and swipe to the right, but that second one in this is my favorite with her ears back. I love that one. My lady wants me to redo these pictures because her neck rolls are a little aggressive there, but she's a fat little chubby bulldog. What's there not to love?
I love it so much. I love bulldogs. My wife is trying to talk me into one, but it's just not the right time for a third dog. Otherwise, that would happen in our life.
Hey, Chris, I promise you, it's the right time. There's nothing cuter than a damn bulldog. And I've grown up with other dogs, but the bulldog is basically like a teddy bear that's come to life. I don't know how else to put it. There's no way to be unhappy around this dog. I promise you that. And she comes to our open mats now.
So I was gonna throw that out there. So I came across, I was going through your social media and everything, and let me see. I think it was, obviously you got all the representation, but I found a video, and it was hilarious. I think it's this one. Let me. It's one of these two.
I think it might be Abby's
that one. Abby's just chilling on the mat and just walking around. And yep, there it is.
She just makes sure everyone's all right. She's like, "Oh, we all doing all right? You doing the technique good?" She makes sure. She knows jiu-jitsu. I mean, they didn't come up with the bulldog choke for nothing. It was named after him.
Absolutely. I was going to throw that out there. One thing I think is really cool is just how chill she is. Like, she just seems like she's just at home having a good time. Like, that's,
brother, that's because there's no audio. If you would hear some of my friends, they're like, dude, I couldn't even hear the music. She's a bulldog. So with bulldogs, you got to get used to that. I don't know what the word is called, but they can't breathe, they're like choking every time she's like the whole time. So she's breathing loud. Don't get it wrong. I had to take the audio off for a reason. But that's awesome. Just how she is. She's a little fat dog. You can't. That's just part of what they are.
No, I love it so much. And we'll get a couple Abby shots in here for sure. But going back, talking about when you first started Freedom Jiu-Jitsu in the original space, because I definitely remember this well. I'll use this photo, just a group photo there. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the space, and I don't really think this space captures, like, you utilize this space so intelligently, but it really was a small space. Like, it's.
Oh, a lot of people got surprised when they finally walked through the doors. They're like, dude, you did really good of good angles on this gym. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to show you how small it is. Like, there's like, just like a girl's going to take a picture on Instagram. It's everything's about angles. So that's the middle of the gym facing the wall. But yeah, you turn to the left, it ends pretty quick. And you turn to the right, it also ends pretty quick there as well.
Yeah, like, that's what they don't tell you is that's a large section of the gym right there.
Mm-hmm. That's about 80% you're looking at right there.
And the people that were doing the music lessons when I came to train, I think they were wrapping up. They had this big wide open space, so they like kind of stuck you in the corner and like do this, and it was awesome. I mean, I had the time of a lifetime over there, but that's why I'm so excited, and I love what you're doing now with the new space you have, and we'll get to that here in a second. But I think this is so cool, like that you have these humble beginnings, that you were just grinding, getting the space to make this happen for all these people. I mean, look at that. That's incredible for, collectively coming together and making something happen. You get these people together and you get them to do something that they've become passionate about.
Well, I'm glad you think it was fun grinding and this humbling experience. I promise you, I wish I could have done a better experience, but I'm learning. I'm definitely learning, but if I knew it was going to be this hard, I probably still would have done it, but it might have taken me a little bit longer.
Yep.
The running official business stuff and government paperwork and all this yada yada is a lot harder than, hey, tighten up your triangle. You know what I mean? But no, I look back at it all the time, and again, we started February 11th, so we're about to hit 9 months. Is it 10 months? I'm bad with numbers right now, but we're still under a year. We've already expanded. I can't, we're just like you said, these little humble beginnings. I can't.
I think it was. I'm trying to find. Is it? No, it's not that one. I'll use this one because I think this captures it pretty well. So tell me what's going on here.
I just got my black belt, and that's me and my girlfriend Ashley, and my number one supporter. She just and if you can, you don't need to zoom in on it, but whenever you guys get a chance, if you're looking at this photo, that's a friend's gi. I didn't even have a gi at this point. I had a red gi, and I told him, I was like, it's not even washed. And I even showed up to the ceremony not even wearing my own brown belt because I thought I had it and I forgot it. But that was the day I got black belt. That one was really cool. It was even when it was a mini surprise. I had two of my buddies that already were black belts. They were getting their first degrees. And they're like, I really want you to come down. I really want you to come down. I was like, oh, man, it's really tough right now. And this happened, I believe, like January 7th. Because it's like my birthday's on the 11th. So we always, it was right before my birthday. I might be off by a day or two. But I also moved to Pensacola like the 1st of January. And then I had to drive with my girl from Pensacola down to Naples, Florida, where this gym's at, Evolution MMA. Great gym. Down in Naples, Florida, it's 9.5 hours. And it was so going back to my buddies getting their first degree, trying to like nonchalantly get me to come, like trying to guilt me. And then one of them was like, look, I'm not trying to blow this for you, but Pimenza, my head coach, he wants to give you your black belt. And I was like, oh man. And then then you get that moment you wanted your whole life when you started jiu-jitsu. That moment you look for, you're getting your black belt, and then you're just like immediately the first thing wasn't fuck yeah, like I want it, like because like how like maybe you're at this stage, maybe you don't want to admit it, maybe you just don't have it in you. But there's a lot of people when they become a white belt that's been there for a couple years, they talk about how they deserve a blue belt. You know what I mean? They don't want to be known as the beginner anymore. And I was like, bro, I'm still a beginner now. But when I got that news, it was like, I mean, you tap out black belts, but that doesn't mean you're a black belt. It's like, it was a strange mix of emotions. But once he told me, I had like a month to get ready to move. I was just ready to move to Pensacola and try to open up a gym as a brown belt. But I was up here for 4 days. They told me about it. I drove back down. And now Denelson Pimenza black belt. And he's like I can't remember. He still competes. He's forgive me because he's going to be so mad. He's in his 40s, I believe. And I don't want to say if he's in his late 40s or early 40s, but he's been training since he's 4 years old. And straight from, Brazilian as can be. And he's been there's a video right after that picture that's like a 23-year black belt versus day one black belt.
Is it this one or
the one on the top right or where you're at?
right
there
we go.
Yeah, so it's like he's been a black belt for 23 years there. He just gave me my black belt yesterday, and he just cuts through me to like butter. And it's like, hey guys, even at black belt, there's still levels to this. But he's like a 9-time. He's probably a double-digit world champion in IBJJF now. Yeah, and then he does his crown. It's just it's crazy. Like in my defense, I will tell people, you saw the knee brace. I was nursing a knee injury. That's why I pull guard. I'm not a guard puller by any means, but um,
But I
he
think
he would destroy me either way. Doesn't matter.
I want to highlight because I think for anyone watching this of any caliber of jiu-jitsu, and me as a white belt, I think this is mind-blowing. This is 2 black belts rolling, but you can, yeah, and I say this respectfully, but you can see the difference. I mean, the guy that's been doing this for 23 years, he's that belt is probably so, it's just a formality. I'm not saying it's a formality in any kind of disrespectful way,
No,
but
you're good.
But he's probably so focused, the belt's just irrelevant to him at that point because he's just focused on honing his craft, that you can see that. I mean, you can actually see him translating that, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, there's no wasted
technical
movement there.
jiu-jitsu is.
Absolutely, there's levels to everything. And again, he beat me. He started when he was 4. I think I started when I was 19. So we started at a little bit of a different pace. But I'm gonna wait till he becomes 60, and then I'm gonna start trying to highlight reel him, and then we'll post some better videos. But
No, that's incredible.
that was this year, so it's not like I'm gonna catch up at him anytime soon. And he's got 2 boys that do it just as young as he did, and they're little monsters. It's so crazy to see kids that start jiu-jitsu when they first started. It's oh yeah, that picture was crazy because that was right after my black belt. I mean, they do this at most places, but I don't really. I mean, we're talking here, and I can talk about jiu-jitsu forever. But then he just turned around. He's laughing in the background. That's my coach, Pimensa, because he goes, "All right, speak." I'm like, "What?" I didn't have anything prepared, but you can't see. There's a video in that right next to that as well. But the guys that are in that picture, all the black belts, something that jiu-jitsu really gave me is I had a lot of like respectable older men in my life, which I think most at any age men need in their life. When you're young, when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, we should seek someone a little bit older and a little bit wiser in our lives. And that's the main reason why I like jiu-jitsu is you get the respect of those people because they're trying to work at jiu-jitsu as hard as you are. But then once you step outside of the mats, these guys are CEOs. They own gas stations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're professional chefs, and I'm over here like I gotta go make $9 an hour, and it's like, but jiu-jitsu brings us all back to like to humble. We're all alike. Yeah, that's that small space.
And that's a familiar face as well.
You remember him? So let's shout Monty out. That's the dude that ate McDonald's before his tournament. So perfect shout out for Monty. But yeah, no, he's great. I love that guy.
No, that's hilarious. I'm glad I'm not the one. No, I didn't do McDonald's before my first one. I just walked into it like I was walking into like Target or something like that. Just the most casual experience ever. It was the stupidest way to approach something. And I learned a lot from that one. I did a whole episode of like what not to do for a tournament. So at least hopefully I can pay that forward to somebody else.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this one. I think I was doing kind of a deep dive, but I would say honestly, God, you can ask my wife. Like I will raise my hand to the sky on this one. I wear that blue Freedom Jiu-Jitsu shirt more than any other shirt. It's genuinely cool. Like your quality is there.
That's awesome.
And I wear it. Honestly, I wear it more as like a walking around shirt than I thought it was going to be like a gym shirt, but it's like my go-to, like I'm going out in public shirt.
Absolutely. Outside of like this Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu shirt I got right now, the only other shirts I wear are Freedom Jiu-Jitsu.
You got to watch my last episode with Tyler Ross. He brings that up. We were talking about he's a really big into Jiu-Jitsu. He's working on a cool project right now, and he brought up the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, and I have a coffee mug up there in my pantry that says that. And so he was talking about he has 2 types of church on Sunday. He has the one where he goes to celebrate Jesus, the one where he goes to celebrate jiu-jitsu.
No, absolutely. I do that the same way. Me and my lady, we just started going to church on Sunday. Like I'm finally blessed to be able to start going before open mat, and then I go straight from church to open mat. I couldn't think of a better Sunday, and we usually end it with pizza. So I mean, it's win-win-win. But these shirts are
Absolutely.
actually made from a buddy that is in the area. His wife is the one that runs does the ladies program, but that's his name's
Wow.
Emerald Coast Choke Dealer on Instagram. But he runs a print service. He can do signs, shirts, banners, whatever you need. And I mean, you can work from him even from Texas. He ships. So I mean, I'm blessed that he doesn't have to ship. He delivers the box straight to the gym. But if you ever want to, he's available. And just like you said, those shirts are great. We just got a new shipment of dry fit T-shirts, and then we're getting the hoodies in on Thanksgiving Day. So shout out to
So shout
Will.
out to them. If you guys are in maybe you're just looking for some general T-shirts, or you have a jiu-jitsu shirt that you're wanting to do, sounds like this is the right company to go to.
Yeah, and it's tagged in that post right there, so you can just click on
Yep,
this post and find them easily from
absolutely.
there.
And there they are. So give him a shout. Looks like he does some jiu-jitsu and might be pretty good at it by
Oh yeah,
chance. So
just a little bit. He did a seminar at our gym, so he did a
wow.
seminar on something called the pretzel grip, which is just a way to grip people when you're working on like front head chokes on someone. It was really interesting. I've never seen it before. It was a great time.
I like this one. I know I love the message behind it, but I think this one showcases the gym pretty well, and especially everything you were talking about early into the episode with like the color schemes, the banners. I love that neon sign, by the way. I think that's really really cool.
Again, that's well. Firstly, let's start. The first thank you goes or I guess praise would go to Ashley because she made that post. The neon sign,
Oh
she
wow.
custom made that. She found it on, I think it was Etsy or Amazon or something like that. And I wish we had I mean, there's updated pictures of this. We now have the American flag above the Brazilian flag as well.
Oh,
Um,
that's so cool. Wow.
but yeah, no, it's she made that post. She's like, "Do you like this?" And I was like, "Absolutely." Like again, I'm good at jujitsu. She's a very creative person, and thank God. Like you see those walls and those floors. We talked about it, I believe, in pre-show, or maybe we talked about it here. But I promise you, this place looks ugly. It looked
Well,
so
last
ugly
thing.
when we first moved in. I only put black and white filter pictures up because it looked garbage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw it on your story, and go follow him on social media. I mean, it genuinely, whether you're new, whether you're experienced, whether you're just looking for something to kind of get you through the day, great social media page to follow as well. And for both White Belt Wednesday and for Freedom Jiu-Jitsu, two phenomenal pages. White Belt Wednesday was one of the first pages I ever followed in coming into Jiu-Jitsu. So
Awesome.
it's very humbling to get to have that conversation and everything. And I put this up here at the top just so people have your basic contact information. I don't think
Absolutely.
you'll be able to see it, but I'm also going to throw the address on here as well so people can see where you're located. They're in Pensacola, Florida and everything, but all the information's up here in the top. So if you're in the area, maybe you're going on vacation. I have a ton of friends that go to Florida to visit, to go on vacation. I really can't think. Maybe you can work it into your itinerary, but while you're on vacation, do some jiu-jitsu while you're there.
Oh, I
Or
promise
if
you, you
you're
should.
or if you're in the area, or to any of my friends that are in the military, because I know there's military bases down there. Quit being lazy and get your butt in the gym and go train.
The Blue Angels fly over us every 3 times a week. It's actually pretty
That's
dangerous
awesome.
living around here. I'm not used to jets flying around, so I always like veer off the road. So
Yeah, it's depending on what type too. It's always a weird experience.
absolutely.
But well, to be mindful of your time, I want to, because I know it's getting late and everything, and I know that you have an insane schedule and you've taught class God knows how many times today and everything. But
Just twice,
I
but
do want
tomorrow
to.
3 times.
Oh my God. Okay. I want to leave it out to you. I can't tell you how thankful I am to get just a second of your time. I'd love to get you on here as much as you want to talk, or if you have any students that want to share their story or anything.
Oh,
But I'm going to
absolutely.
lay it out for you. Anything that you want to talk about, just final thoughts.
I think if you're someone that's interested in trying jujitsu, you should definitely take that leap. Um, I didn't know it was gonna,
I didn't know it was
change
gonna,
my life,
change
and
my life,
it was
and
gonna be the
it
direction
was
I
going to be
take.
the direction I
But
take. But
I am
I am
definitely a much better
definitely a
person
much
for
better
it.
person for it.
So,
So
there's a lot of people that are on
there's
the
a lot of
fence,
people that are on
especially
the
like
fence,
since I run a
especially like
gym.
since
I
I
get
run a
people that
gym. I
message
get
me all the
people that
time.
message me all the
I'll be
time.
here this day,
I'll
and
be
then when
here
it
this
comes to
day,
that
and then
day,
when it
they
comes to that
back
day,
out.
they back out.
But it's the
But
ones that
it's
walk
the
through the
ones that
doors, and
walk
I'm
through the
sure you can
doors, and I'm
attest to
sure you
that.
can
Literally
attest to that.
walking through the
Literally
doors is the
walking through the
hardest part.
doors is the hardest part.
There's nothing else you really have to
There's
worry
nothing else you
about.
really have to worry about.
I drove through the parking lot 3 times before I decided to park and go in for my trial class. Like I was so nervous.
I've had times
I've
even
had
after
times even
was
after I
already a
was
member
already
of a
a
gym where
member
I
of the
drove
gym, where I
there,
drove
parked,
there,
and my
parked,
body's like,
and
you're
my
not
body's
doing
like, yeah,
this,
you're
and
not
you
doing
just back
this.
out and
You just
leave.
back
So,
out and leave.
like
So,
you're gonna fail, but
you're gonna fail,
that's the
but
beauty of
that's
jiu-jitsu.
the
It's
beauty
one
of
of the things
jiu-jitsu.
that
It's one of the
teach you
things that
failure.
teach
You
you
get
failure.
success
You
out of
get
failure.
success
You
out of
don't
failure.
really
You
get
don't
that
really get
anywhere
that
else in life.
anywhere else in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you want anybody, any shout outs to Freedom Jiu-Jitsu or anything that people can do to support Freedom Jiu-Jitsu or anything of that nature?
I mean, if you got friends in
If you got friends
Pensacola,
in
like
Pensacola, like
it's definitely a
it's
different
definitely a
venture
different
going
venture
from
going
trying
from
to build White Belt
trying to build
Wednesday
White Belt
to trying
Wednesday
to build a
to
gym.
trying
It's
to build
like
a gym.
it's hard to support a
It's
gym
hard to support
without
a
being in
gym
that
without
city.
being in
But
that city. But
if you know anyone in
if you know
Pensacola,
anyone in Pensacola,
bring them our way.
bring them our way.
You can always,
You
even
can
if it's
always,
not my
even
gym,
if it's
if you
not
got a
my
gym in
gym,
your
if you got a
area,
gym in your area,
sharing the gym's posts,
sharing the gym's
interacting with
posts,
people,
interacting with people,
it's like pulling teeth
it's
to
like
get people
pulling
to
teeth to get people to
share things, and
share things,
it's
and
free
it's
to do
like it's
so.
free to
But
do so. But
any gym will
any gym will
absolutely
absolutely
appreciate that type of
appreciate that
support.
type of
But
support.
I mean,
But
if you're not
I
going to train
mean,
with
if you're not
me,
going to train with me,
find a gym that you can
find
train
a
at.
gym that you can train at.
I
I
promise you,
just
your life
promise you, your life
will be harder,
will
but
be
also
harder, but
better
also better
with jujitsu.
with jujitsu.
And it's just a quick plug, but I'm maybe connecting two worlds here real quick. But the guy that I interviewed previously, his name's Tyler. He's working on an app that's for jiu-jitsu gyms to help, hopefully, make it easier for people that are like dropping in, but also to help the athletes be able to kind of like know the rules. Like if there's a waiver to sign in advance or pay drop-in fees or anything like that, if people do that. And so maybe check it out. He's got an app, a web-based app called Fighter's Passport. And as a gym owner, I actually mentioned to you, I was like, man, this would be something great just to make it easy for you. So it's almost something you don't have to think about, and you could invite drop-ins or
Oh, absolutely.
I
I'll
think
look
he's
into
doing a
that.
thing with like coordinating seminars, like stuff like that, like a seminar travel route and everything. But definitely check that out because I thought of you immediately and to any gym owner. But Freedom Jiu-Jitsu, as he was saying, give them a like, give them a follow. I promise it's great content. I don't say that. I'm very selective on who I follow on social media and who I take. I take advice from everybody. I need all the help with jiu-jitsu I can get. But
We all do. That's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of it.
I think mine is I got the jitslexia is what we call it. But it's but seriously, this is he's the real deal. I fully just getting to train under him. I can fully say that if there's someone to train under and you're in that Pensacola area, this is the place to do it. Had a phenomenal time. The students are super welcoming. The whole vibe is just there, and you're also going to get pushed at the same time. And I think that balance of being welcome but intensity is really, really great. And it's not always the easiest to find just in life. So take advantage of it if you're there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
And I mean,
again, the
again,
Lord has
the
blessed me
Lord
so
has blessed
much
me
with
so
this
much
new gym.
with this new
So
gym.
I can't complain where
I
we're
can't
at. I
complain
love
where we're at.
exactly
I love
as much as I
exactly
joke
as
around
much as
about
I
it,
joke around about it,
how painful it
how
was,
painful
the
it was,
tears in the
the
beginning,
tears in the
the
beginning,
stress of,
the
hey, you're about to
stress of,
start
hey,
something
you're
and
about to
also
start
lose
something and also
something.
lose something.
But, we've
But,
prevailed.
we've prevailed.
Just like in jiu-jitsu, I
Just like
found help.
jiu-jitsu, I
So,
found help. So,
now we're
now
using the
we're
gifts
using
that
the
God gave
gifts
me,
that God gave me, and
and we're bringing more people
we're
in.
bringing more people in.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I truly mean it. And as always, I can't wait to come down and train with you guys again sometime.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
And hopefully I won't suck quite as bad. Still a lot, but not quite as bad.
No,
So.
well, you were great the first time. I'm sure you're gonna be
You're
a
going to be
monster next
you're a
time we see
monster
each
next
other.
time.
I appreciate it, brother. So thank you so much. For everyone else, Thank you guys for taking the time to listen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Go check out Freedom Jiu-Jitsu, White Belt Wednesday. Go give them a follow. Go give them a shout out. And if all else fails, don't forget to tap.
Yeah,
Bye, guys.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you, brother. God bless.
Brother, God bless.